I'm blessed to have great guests with me today. Unlike a lot of radio talk show hosts, I don't spend a lot of time on politics. I try to find people that inspire me, that I also think, because of what they do, might inspire you. And as we approach the end of this year, 2023, and move into 2024, I try to find some folks that might motivate you in one way or another to look at your life and how you might make some improvements in your life, how you might reach out and help somebody in a different way than you thought of during the past year. And I was blessed to find some of those folks. And my first guest today is a person I've never met. I actually saw her book on social media, and I was immediately drawn to it for a number of reasons. So first of all, I'd like to welcome to the Tyler Axness Show, Anna Lurex. Anna, how are you this afternoon?
Good, I'm good. How are you?
I'm great, thank you. I'm assuming you're somewhere in the Twin Cities area today?
Yes, I am.
Well, Anna wrote a book called Lithium, Part 1. And it's the first of a series of 4. I'm telling you, it's a page turner. Again, it's Lithium, Part 1. And I was absolutely immersed because of a couple of reasons. So I'm going to tee it up this way, Anna. Anna has a background where she's very artistic and talented. During the lockdown of COVID, she learned of another calling she had, and that's writing. And this is the first work that you produced called Lithium Part 1. And share with us what motivated you to develop the character of Mia Bell and her personality, and how that personally impacted you.
Well, it started during COVID lockdown. I was talking to my psychologist because I have bipolar disorder. And we were talking about what could I do kind of to cope with COVID. And she joked that my life could be a book. So that's what she urged me to do, is write a book about my life. And so I was, absolutely, let's do it. And I went back and I read some of my journals and reflected, and I realized it was too hard for me to write about my life. It was too dark and raw. So I went back to her. I said these things, and she said, all right, write it, but in a fiction. And so I created this fictional character, Mia, who had my background and my experiences. And it really gave me a way to be vulnerable and open, but without the direct kind of exposure feeling.
I'm glad you teed it up that way. One of the things that drew me was the fact that you shared with the readers of the book that you were diagnosed as a young adult with bipolar disorder, something that we think, and I have to say we think, because back in the 60s and 70s, I'm not so certain it was called that, but our father struggled with what we think was bipolar disorder. And Mom used to say your dad was in a funk, and it was over a period of time where they identified the correct medication for him, and he would take it as prescribed, which is not a strength for a lot of men, by the way. It's just the way life is. So I was so drawn to how you shared your experiences with some of the stigma of bipolar disorder. Why do you think some folks have the stigma when it comes to what's really a mental illness that somebody can't control because they have it? Why do you think some of us have this stigma?
Lack of information. I see in the media a lot how they depict people with bipolar disorder, and it always is a character with violence. And it's interesting to me because people with mental illness are more likely to be a victim because they're so vulnerable rather than violent. And so I think people are just afraid and unsure, and they don't know what bipolar is. So that's how they kind of just give in to that.
You did a masterful job with I'm assuming it's the first fictional book that you wrote. You did a masterful job in 35 chapters of doing what I call a page turner. I couldn't quickly enough get to the next chapter to see the continuing story from the previous chapter. How long did it take you to write the first? And feel free, by the way, to also talk about the second of the series of 4 books that you'll be sharing with us. How long did it take you to write the first one?
I would say maybe a year. I didn't set out to write a series. I was just writing one book, and I realized the book was so long, I had to divide it into 4 different parts. So I think it was a year, all of that together, and I'm actually working on book 5 right now.
I just absolutely love it. During the process of writing,
Mm-hmm.
were there times as you shared parts of Mia's life that it struck maybe too responsive a chord for you and you had to put the pen down and think about where to go from there?
Yes, that happened a lot, but actually writing through it, the painful memories, was kind of therapeutic to put it down on paper. So it wasn't too bad.
How old were you when you were diagnosed?
20 years old.
20. So this started during the lockdown, and
Yes.
your therapist encouraged you to put pen to paper, and you just
Yes.
shared that it took about a year. During the writing process, when you say it was at times very therapeutic, for someone that doesn't have bipolar disorder or someone that doesn't struggle with mental illness, and there are millions and millions of people that do, by the way, that's why I asked you to come on. When you put that pen down, what were some of the ways that you deal with the therapy, if you will, to pick the pen back up and start writing again?
I talked a lot with my psychologist, talking it through. And yeah, I think that's about it. She helped me get back into it, but keep writing, keep pushing forward, because it was so important to get my story down on paper that, you just can't stop.
Before I forget, because sometimes I do, when you get old, Anna, sometimes you forget stuff. Like today when Eric said, yeah, we met before, and I had to scratch my head. And when you have no hair, that's a real easy thing to do. And then he reminded me of how we met and the details we went through. And then he gave me a poster of our band from 1970. But that's another story. Absolutely another story.
Okay.
When do you think the second edition of the series will come out?
Within a year, I'm hoping. It's going through editing right now, which that can be difficult too, listening to my editor's take on things. But we've been working really well together, and there's been a lot of good progress. So hopefully within a year, that'll be published.
We're going to take a break here, pay for the timer with some of the sponsors. When we come back, I want to talk about where people can find the book. And I'm going to scratch just the surface a little bit about some of the other incredibly talented skills that you have in your life. You're listening to Afternoons with Tyler Axness, but I'm Mike Seminary. Hey, good afternoon. You're listening to Afternoons with Tyler Axness. This is Mike Seminary filling in for Tyler. It's a pleasure to be with you this afternoon. And as always, I appreciate the invitation when I can substitute for somebody so they can take some well-deserved time off. I have on the show with me this afternoon Anna Lurex. And by the way, that's spelled Lurex. Anna is the author of a book called Lithium, Part 1. And before I get to my second question, Anna, where's the best place for people to find your book so they can buy it?
Amazon and the Barnes & Noble website.
Fantastic. Amazon, Barnes and Noble. Why should people read Lithium Part 1?
Well, I think society really should know the realities of bipolar disorder, and I think my book does that, and that the stigma really hurts and makes us want to hide who we are having bipolar disorder, and we fear rejection. But my message, I think, is so important that I don't fear it, and I'm not hiding anymore.
And is that in large part because of the process you went through writing Lithium Part 1?
Sorry, what?
Is part of that because of you writing this book, Lithium Part 1?
It's completely about the stigma around bipolar disorder. That's something I'm so passionate about, and I think that's what my book does, is fight the stigma.
One of the characters in the book, and I'm not going to go into great detail because you have to buy the book and read all 35 chapters to get ready for Part 2. I'm assuming it might be called Part 2. I could be wrong, Anna.
Yes, that's right.
But you have your childhood friend Ozzy,
Mm-hmm.
and he's analogous to me as an anchor, someone that you were able to, because your long-term relationship, you were able to anchor. Not you, Mia was able to anchor to him because of the stigma and misunderstanding of bipolar disorder. Am I kind of accurate when I say that?
Yes.
So is the Aussies of the world, from your perspective, and I also believe you lecture on bipolar disorder at the University of Minnesota. We'll get to that in a minute. So are the Aussies of the world critically important? Having someone as an anchor is important, but even more so when it comes to someone that has bipolar disorder?
Yes, it's just somebody without the disorder wanting to learn more and wanting to be supportive. That just means so much. Like, specifically me, I have Ozzy in my life, and he's just been great as an anchor, and showing that there are people out there that do care, who do want to learn about it.
Let's get back to a guest lecturer at the University of Minnesota. First of all, the way I said that, is that correct?
Yes.
When you're guest lecturing at the University of Minnesota, what is the curriculum or course, the students that are in the room, and what are you trying to accomplish when you're sharing your thoughts and information with them?
Well, I talk to nursing students when they're going into their mental health unit, and I'm kind of trying to teach them to fight the stigma within themselves, because a lot of them are very ignorant to what bipolar is. So I'm trying to fight the stigma just within society, but also for the patients they will be treating. I give them kind of insight on how to treat these patients with a mental illness going forward, and I think I do a pretty good job with that.
How long have you been doing that?
About 3 years.
3 years. How many students are in the room typically?
It's pretty small, like 25.
So might you have evangelists that leave that room that now have a far better understanding of bipolar disorder and how they can help people understand the stigma where you're wrong and how you can support people that have what is a mental illness? Would you say you have evangelists that leave that room because of your sharing your life with them?
Absolutely.
What else should we know about your book?
Well, what you should know about my cover is I actually painted it. So that'd be kind of fun to look up. I'm working on the cover of book too, which is also really cool.
Okay.
Um,
Do you have a website
just-
people can go to?
yes, I do. AnnaLurex.com.
ANNALUREX.com. Anna, thank
Yep.
you so much for taking time to join me today. Thank you for writing the book and sharing important life experiences with all of us about people that we love and people that we're just maybe getting to know that struggle with what we call mental illness. Have a great 2024. I'm looking forward to connecting with you again. Appreciate you joining me today, Anna.
All right. Thanks, Mike.